Our meeting tonight is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jim from Arizona, go ahead, please.
Good evening. Just recently, while eating breakfast, I thought that I should water my cork oak tree. I did not respond to the suggestion immediately, but delayed for some reason. About an hour later, I thought of the watering chore and looked outside to see a glorious spring rain, gently watering the landscape and the cork oak. Then I knew the reason for the delay of the watering, for God had been doing the watering in a most effective manner. How important it is to listen to God's message in all of our activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Shahidat from Maryland, go ahead, please.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the readings tonight. I had a healing last week that I'd like to share. Last Wednesday afternoon, while I was working from home, as many of us are doing these days, I suddenly began to experience a headache coupled with nausea. When I reached out to God in prayer, knowing that this was an aggressive mental suggestion that I chose to not accept, I began to remember a line from the chapter on Christian Science practice in our textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The full statement is from page 390, and it goes, when the first symptoms of disease appear, dispute the testimony of the material science with divine science. The entire page of 390 is full of command statements on how to assert our God-given dominion over sickness. As I prayed with and implemented these truths, the symptoms began to clear up quickly and have not darkened my door since. Later that evening during the testimony meeting, the nausea attempted to return, but I was ready this time with the command statements, and the symptoms disappeared in just a few minutes. I had the opportunity to share my experience and recommend praying with those command statements from page 39 with 2 other family members during the week who also seem to be experiencing cold symptoms. I am very grateful to have Christian Science in my life, and specifically to have been led to this wonderful independent church, where every week I learn more about how to be a practicing Christian Scientist. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sherry from California.
Thank you. Since finding this church and the correct teaching of Christian Science, I have been praying diligently and daily and getting continued support and teaching from a practitioner in this church. What had been lacking in my life, even though having Christian Science introduced to me as a child and attending Christian Science Sunday School, was a correct understanding of true love, divine love, the mother love, God's love that is ever present in me. What led me to call for help opened up a mental door that I had closed tightly due to many hurts that, without this understanding of the true sense of divine love, I was never able to heal completely. In Science and Health, page 288, which was read tonight, Mrs. Eddy says, the eternal truth destroys what mortals seem to have learned from error, and man's real existence as a child of God comes to light. This is what has been happening to me this past year. While there has been a greater challenge to overcome in my experience, there have been so many little evidences come into my life of this true divine love, and I have been helped to magnify them continually, thereby showing me how to trust more and more this love that is God to destroy what appears as bigger challenges. As what Mrs. Eddy stated, my real existence as a child of God has come to light. I know now that this divine love, this mother love, has always been ever present in me, and it is the only love that has ever been, and that I can trust that love to love me and everyone. There is nothing so great as that. and I am so, so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, New Jersey.
Nancy from New Jersey, go ahead, please.
Thank you for the beautiful readings tonight and the beautiful uplifting music. Tonight I would like to give a special gratitude for our Wednesday evening meetings and for the opportunity that they give us to share with others the blessings that we receive. A few days ago, while I was looking through my collection of note cards, I came across a card with just two simple statements on it. The first was, "Love is the infinite giver," and the second, "Love's bestowals never cease." These statements immediately brought to my mind last Wednesday, March 18th, testimony meeting, where one of the testifiers shared a beautiful poem that was given to her by her practitioner about keeping our mental home golden. The beauty and wisdom of this poem, along with the love expressed by the testifier, touched me. And I wrote the poem down to use and work with, and also to share with my family and friends. To me, this was a clear example of those two statements, because all of our testimonies are expressions of love's bestowals that never cease. And because they are shared with us, and in return we go on to use them and share them with others, this once again demonstrates that love is the infinite giver. I'm so grateful to Mrs. Eddy for giving us Christian Science and for her provision for these Wednesday testimony meetings. I'm so grateful for this beautiful church where the testimonies are always so plentiful and enriching. I'm so grateful for our practitioners who teach us the importance of being grateful and the importance of giving testimonies, and that in doing so, we become a part of that love that is an infinite giver. How wonderful to know that our practitioners, our every service, every class, every instruction given in this church, all the materials provided on our wonderful website are the fulfillment of those two simple but powerful statements. I am filled with love and gratitude for this and for all that I am learning here, and I'm so very grateful to be here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam, Virginia.
Pam from Virginia, go ahead, please.
This is actually Annie. I'm her daughter. I just wanted to say I am a newer member of the Plainfield Church, but I am so grateful to be a member and everything that is available on the website and on YouTube that you're able to have access to continually. I work in an office, and I have been finding it, and now I've actually been working from home, but it's been a bit of a challenge trying to hold a good thought for the world when there has been constant bombardment and play-by-plays of what's going on in the news. But with that said, I keep trying to I am doing it, holding a good thought and saying, we are all innocent of this lie. And I ended up looking up innocent in the concordance, actually innocency. And it directed me to Psalm 26 and verse 6. And the interesting part about it is a lot of what they're saying in the news, the simple bit, is to wash your hands. And in verse 6 of Psalm 26, it says, I will wash mine hands in innocency, so I will compass thine altar, O Lord, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works. I just thought that was so incredible that it says, I will wash mine hands in innocency. And we are all innocent of this lie. So I just wanted to express my gratitude again for the church and everything that is provided to us, and for the beautiful readings tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Joanne, Florida.
Joanne from Florida, go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for those wonderful readings. Recently, we've been studying an article by Dorothy Reiki on our church website entitled Wonderful Things Are Happening. I've been using the thoughts in this article to pray about this whole situation going on in our world and our nation. And one statement from Science and Health in this article I especially love, and that is, quote, unfathomable mind is expressed. The depth, breadth, height, majesty, and glory of infinite love fill all space, end quote. Holding on to this truth has helped me to see so much of God's love expressed during this time. In our daily walks, we're meeting new people who are freely talking to us about God and how they are turning to God in prayer. Neighbors are looking out for each other, offering each other help, and just checking in on each other. And we've even gotten several unexpected cash refunds that in turn have helped us to help merchants and others. These blessings and all those that are being shared tonight make us, as it says in this week's lesson, eyewitnesses of His majesty. I'm grateful for the teaching I've received here that has taught me to know that only good is going on and to demand a blessing from every situation. I'm grateful for the practitioners' prayerful support that I'm receiving here and all the spiritual strength that this church provides through its roundtables, Bible studies, website, and above all, these healing services. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Shardy.
Good evening, and yes, the readings are absolutely wonderful, and I thank you. I am grateful to be learning about real healing that is found here in this independent Christian Science church. Healing of many sorts, including emotional and physical. We are taught that all is in the mental realm and all situations are met by loving God. The other day, while thinking about the truths written in our Love is the Liberator magazine, a pain that had been in my hip went away. Much later that evening, I realized that the discomfort never returned. Even today. This is what Mrs. Eddy must have meant when she said to think about the good and the true. Here is the full quote from Science and Health, page 261. Look away from the body into truth and love, the principle of all happiness, harmony, and immortality. Hold thought steadfastly to the enduring, the good, and the true, and you will bring these into your experience proportionably to their occupancy of your thoughts. End quote. Plainfield Church has made available many avenues for healing, including personal practitioner help and the magazine called Love is the Liberator. It's a wonderful resource that is written, prayed for, printed, and can be found on our website. Can we ask for more? Thank you, dear church, for all your love.
Thank you.
Dave, Florida.
Dave from Florida. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for those excellent readings, first of all. This is something that happened to me when I was a kid. I was eating fish and a bone lodged in the back of my throat. Needless to say, it was very uncomfortable. I called the practitioner for help. She said she would pray and said to work with a thought from Science and Health. Truth removes properly whatever is offensive. Well, it only took a few hours, and the bone finally came loose, and I was relieved. I'm grateful to be a member of this church, for the healing practitioners, for Christian Science, and for all the members here. It's nice to know that working together with God, we can heal what is going on in the world today. God is governing this nation and the world, and nothing else has power. Thank you.
Thank you.
Luba, Ohio.
Luba from Ohio. Go ahead, please.
I'm so grateful that during these challenging times we have Christian Science and Plainfield Church to turn our thought away from the media and to God, our true source of what is real. I'm very grateful to the roundtable discussions, the Bible study, testimonies, and literature that continue to inspire me and others too. And I'm forever grateful to my loving, patient practitioner who is always there and has helped me so much in my understanding. Thank you so much for tonight's excellent reading and music, and I'm glad and grateful to be here.
Thank you.
Luann, New York.
Luann from New York. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Being in Christian Science and working with my practitioner has helped me to see the world in a different light. I was always so focused on what was wrong. The hate, mistrust, the anger at my circumstances seemed legitimate and justified. But I have realized over the past few years that those feelings have no active role in what is true and real. They never could make anything better, heal, or bring peace to anyone. I'm so grateful to have been given the tools to overcome any temptation to turn back to all the bitterness and give up. I have learned that life is not a roller coaster ride of wins and losses. It is fixed, steady, and unmoved. And in this I have found an indescribable peace. Lately I hear so many people saying that they wish things would go back to the way they were. Because of everything that God has done for me through Christian Science and the teachings I have received from this church and my practitioner, I can say with certainty that is impossible. I thank God every day for all the love He has given me, for the food He provides, for a safe home to dwell in, my family in Christ, for all the changes that have awakened me to His power and presence, and for the strength to never give up in the midst of adversity. I am so grateful to my practitioner for removing all that has hindered me from knowing and loving God. I'm so grateful to God for Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, and all that is being done to elevate and illuminate the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betty, California.
Betty from California. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. Well, I was thinking about what to give as a testimony tonight with all these stuff that's been going around. I remembered a healing that I had some time ago. I woke up with the beginnings of a cold. I got up, read the lesson, and began to read from Collectania of items by and about Mary Baker Eddy, which I had been reading a few pages a day after I read the lesson. As I was reading, the following quote just sort of popped out at me. It said, quote, "My body is not a toxin factory. It is the substance of love, the reflex of soul. This omnipresent truth is an antidote, antitoxin to all poison, both internal and external," unquote. And that was on page 143. The idea that my body is not a toxin factory really startled me. It was like someone sternly and emphatically said to me, "You are not a toxin factory, so you cannot have a cold or whatever you think you may have." Well, with that, the cold completely disappeared. I am so grateful for this healing, and so grateful for the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent, where we have access to books like Collectania and to many other books and pamphlets. I am very grateful for practitioner help and for Mary Baker Eddy for her discovery of Christian Science. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon.
This morning when I was studying, the statement from Age by Mary Baker Eddy stood out to me. It is, quote, "Close your thoughts firmly against the interference of mortal beliefs. Hold yourself open to the plans of God and closed to the plots of Satan," unquote. This is a perfect treatment for the world's situation. Listen to God, not the news, which is the plot of Satan to get the world fearful and distracted from listening to him. Be grateful for all the good God has given us and sent his love out to the world. And also in Science and Health, Mrs. Eddy writes, quote, hold thought steadfastly to the enduring, the good, and the true, and you will bring these into your experience proportionably to their occupancy of your thoughts, unquote. These statements are the healing truth and will destroy this hypnotic suggestion. I'm grateful to God and Mary Baker Eddy for Christian Science, for the teaching and healing of the practitioners, and for the abundant literature we have on our website. And thank you for the readings.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for the readings tonight and for the beautiful prelude. I want to express my gratitude for the teachings of the Plainfield Church, Independent Christian Science Church, that teaches this science correctly and how to use it in every area of our lives. For the last couple of years, I have been gaining a new sense of order in my thinking and acting. With practitioner support, I have been replacing a stressful, willful attempt to keep things clean and clutter-free for a more prayerful approach to my things, time, space, and thinking. On one occasion, after cleaning a cluttered area, I found that my work for God became more peaceful, inspired, and freer. It has been quite an experience seeing the difference between my old approach, and although I considered myself a pretty good organizer, nothing has ever compared to the ideas and unfoldment that has manifested with this correct prayers that I'm learning here and listening approach to my work and getting myself out of the way. No longer do I search for hours for the perfect plan, and if I need any helpful information, it comes effortlessly. I'm learning to be very grateful for all that I have and to let go of things that I once held on to that really do not add to a peaceful environment. I'm very grateful for the instructions and support of my practitioner who is showing me how to use in practical ways these biblical principles and the correct teaching of Mary Baker Eddy's writings, which are based on the Bible. I also find addresses by Martha Wilcox, which can be found on our website, has very helpful instructions also on page 13. She has a section on exactness and orderliness, and it just was very helpful in this idea so that you think correctly and you're exact, because this is a very exact science. I'm very grateful for this little church and for Christ Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
I'm very grateful tonight for every statement of truth that has ever been given to me, statement of truth in Christian Science by teachers, practitioners, and members of this church over the years. Every little bit of the truth that I have been able to catch a glimpse of has made a huge change in every part of my life. A while ago, after a very active day working on a very cold day, I became ill that evening. And so I sat down in a quiet place and prayed. And right away, some thoughts came to me that had been given to us over the years by our teacher, Mrs. Evans. One thought that was very helpful to me was that we exist under the law of God, which is spiritual and which is 100% good. And that there is no so-called law of matter that could oppose that law of God. Well, I prayed for a while to see myself as the Son of God, recognizing that the image and likeness of God could not suffer from any right activity and is perfect now. Well, within a few minutes, I could feel the peace and love of God surrounding me, and the symptoms, which had been very unpleasant, very quickly left. I was able to sleep peacefully that night, and in the morning was completely healed. I'm so grateful for this healing, for what I'm learning in this church. So grateful to Mary Baker Eddy for being so close to God to get this truth so clearly, to write it down, to prove it, and to give it to all mankind. I know it is the truth because it heals. I'm so grateful to be here with you tonight.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I'm very grateful tonight for God bringing me to Plainfield and for all I have learned here that has helped me to find peace and purpose. There's always so much going on at this church, and I'm thankful to be here and I have so much to do and learn. I was working on a testimony for tonight, and all that I felt was that I just love being here, and I'm so grateful to God for Christian Science, this church, and practitioner support for taking me from a life that felt very desperate and meaningless to this life I have now that feels so bright and joyous and full of meaning. Learning the importance of placing God at the center of my life has made all the difference. It makes so much sense to me now, since God is truth, life, and love. To spend so much time running from divine truth meant I was running from all that was real and true about myself. Running from divine life made my existence feel smaller and smaller. And running from divine love made everything feel dark and meaningless. Of course, all that running got me nowhere. There is no distancing ourselves from God. He is always close at hand. I know many people around the world feel distant and alone right now, and I feel so blessed to be a part of this mission to bring true Christian Science to the world. Science has healed and saved me, and has shown me what love truly is, and I know it will do that for everyone. What a blessing it is to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Florence, Georgia.
Florence from Georgia. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thanks for the beautiful readings about the call to return to the power of truth. There is a sense of quiet and a beautiful time of reflecting going on that I'm not so sure we want everything to go back without some profound changes. For example, last week I heard that in Italy and Germany, the church bells are ringing at certain times to call people to pray. I thought how wonderful this is and how wonderful it would be if such practice continues. So I pray that all the wonderful things that are going on become so clear and make all of us have God more in all our lives, that things change for all mankind in the way that God wants his children to live. And now I have a testimony from one of our followers. She says, in 100 years of Christian Science healing, a farmer in South Africa wrote the shortest testimony in the whole book about a healing of a plague that was running rampant on farms, killing all their livestock. When he understood that his animals could never be separate from divine love, not one fell ill or died, and the plague left the region as quickly as it had come. He wrote something I've never forgotten. Animals respond to truth much more quickly than humans. Many years ago, one morning one of my dogs was lying in the bed instead of greeting me as he usually did. I quickly realized that he couldn't get up. Initially, I panicked. I thought, what do I do? I don't want him to suffer. Should I take him to the vet? I felt burdened by an oppressive sense of false responsibility for this dog I loved. Then the thought came, what does he want? I looked down and saw him looking up at me with his big, brown, beautiful eyes. He wants me to care for him. He wants to feel love, not fear. He's not wanting me to take him to the vet. Let's go to the vet, said no animal ever. The next thought that came was this. The greatest care I could give him or anyone would be to know that he has never been separate from God. In Sunday school as a little girl, I had learned that the lions didn't eat Daniel because they were God's perfect lions. This dog was God's perfect dog. Perfect God, dog, perfect creation. So I sat down next to him and I sang his favorite hymn. He was an Australian shepherd, and I loved to sing him, Shepherd, Show Me How to Go. Closed my eyes and felt the sun shining through the window on both of us. I felt so full of love and so grateful to know that neither he nor I could ever be separate from that love. I sang the hymn all the way through, flooded with that pure, infinite love. When I finished, I opened my eyes to look down at him, but he wasn't there. I got up and went out into the kitchen, where he now stood with the other two dogs, all wagging their tails, wondering why the heck breakfast was taking so long. Animals do not have mortal minds, so when we are clear transparencies for truth and love, they immediately respond to the truth of their being in love. Right now, our dogs are wagging their tails, our cats are purring, the birds are singing and building nests because it is spring. Squirrels are rejoicing to be outside again. They are not listening to the media. In fact, they are enjoying some peace and quiet for a change. They don't need to tune into the news to get important updates because they already know all there is to know. They know that all life is love. I'm so grateful to learn the lessons that love is always teaching us through its beautiful animal creations who know there is no mortal mind. There is only one mind, and all of us are its pure reflection of love, truth, and life. Thank you so much, Plainfield, for the readings and the testimonies and the fantastic website resources. I'm thankful for you being such beautiful transparencies for truth that heals the lie that any of us could ever be separate from mind, love, spirit, God, and life.
Mary.
Okay, I have some things to read from last week, our church website bulletin board, the first from Florida. Thank you for this morning's inspiring Bible study and the spiritual strength that each of these online and conference activities provide for us in the outposts. And thank you, Faith, for that beautiful, beautiful solo this Sunday morning. That was March 15th. We certainly felt the infinite heart of love when it was sung. And then Pennsylvania. Thank you for including the 1863 Proclamation for a Day of Humiliation, Fasting, and Prayer by Abraham Lincoln at both the weekend's Bible study and roundtable, and for including it with the audio on the carousel. It was a wow for me and fed us all. Then Virginia. Let me add my thanks for all the wonderful support and inspiration which comes from this church, beginning Wednesday, March 11th, with the readings which were so timely and based on Mary Baker Eddy's statement, "Error has no power but to destroy itself. It cannot harm you. It cannot stop the eternal currents of truth." Miscellaneous writings. The Bible study on Saturday gave so much and encouraged us to love, be joyful, and bless others. Sunday's roundtable, including the mention of the spectacular article, Wonderful Things Are Happening, which is on our website. The idea for each of us to read Daniel chapter 9 and take it to heart and put God at the head of our procession. For in acknowledging God, we find freedom. The Sunday, March 15th service was the culmination of all this turning to God. Hymn 342, Angels' Songs, seemed to say it all, and then we were blessed with the most beautiful singing of Fountain of Life. Thank you to everyone. And then again, Pennsylvania. Thank you for the Plainfield Daily Calendar statement and notices and emails. The links therein this morning were both so helpful. The article, The Art of Being Glad by Bigda Young, and the testimony that was based on 2 Kings 6 in the Bible. I pray thee, open his eyes. What a wonderful way to pray in many circumstances. Don't miss hearing this testimony, which is a calendar link on March 22nd. And then also Pennsylvania, What a Treasure Working Out Our Problem, which is an article from the book Dominion Within by Reverend Kratzer. Thank you for including it in the link to the audio of the daily calendar email. Not being a new student of Christian Science, but certainly still new to what it really is all about, I found the article most instructive. And then Illinois. I was helping a friend by placing online grocery order to be delivered to her. The day before, I had checked out the website to make sure delivery was available and the charges. We were on the phone for 45 minutes selecting the items. When I went to schedule the delivery, I received the message that delivery is unavailable and the closest store to pick up the groceries was 20 minutes away. I hung up with my friend and placed a call to customer service number and was 30 minutes on hold. I got up from my computer and walked into the kitchen. I stopped and said, "This is God-directed and therefore cannot be stopped." I did a few other tasks while still on hold, and suddenly I hear God's voice say the name of another company that delivers groceries. I went back to the computer, signed on, selected the items, and was able to have delivery scheduled within 5 hours. What joy and absolute proof that God does meet our every need when we turn to Him, know the truth, and listen for His voice. With much love and gratitude. And then this is England. You mentioned that your president called for a National Day of Prayer, and out of interest, I looked on the internet to see if any of the days of prayer previously held in Britain were of any interest. I was especially struck by one during the Second World War. Long before America joined the war, the British forces, fighting alone, were in a most dangerous situation and needed to retreat from France, where it was extremely likely that they would all be wiped out. Most people in this country are aware of the miracle of Dunkirk, but I didn't know that this occurred shortly after a National Day of Prayer. The first part, she sends the article, she says the first part of the article relates to this tale. Very best wishes and love to you all and all at Plainfield. And we will have that article in one of our magazines, I'm sure. And then also the same person in England. She says, I took a call from a friend who advises people about finance. And with the present situation on the news, he was having a difficult time with his clients. Normally, it's very socially unacceptable to talk about God or religion here in the UK, but I knew he is a Christian, so I mentioned to him about the 91st Psalm, and he was very receptive and said he would look it up and would mention it to some of his clients to help them keep calm. I was very grateful. So this I'm adding is some of the wonderful things, too, that are happening. People now are much more receptive, I found, when I go out, too, to hear about God and the truth. And that's a good thing. It's so much needed. And then finally, this is another animal testimony from Hawaii. Though I have been blessed with a demonstration of many Christian Science healings in life for myself, friends, pets, and towards more peace in the world, including local neighborhood relations when disagreements made those appear strained, I had mostly not felt like I really knew how to give an actual Christian Science treatment, even though I was officially class taught many years ago, and I always thought someday I would really dive into researching how specifically to go about doing a treatment. Then, some months ago, one of my beloved pets was struck ill, and at first I was not concerned because just reading Science and Health as well as other Mary Baker Eddy writings and listening for God's guidance had always worked before with things like tumors, deafness, ramifications from car accidents, etc. This time, however, a myriad of mysterious symptoms did not yield. So I contacted a Plainfield practitioner who graciously agreed to support us in prayer, and it was a journey, but throughout was the blessing of someday having arrived, demanding time be made to read everything I could get my hands on about how Christian Science treatments are actually done. The Plainfield website was very helpful in this regard, as were the roundtables and other books on the subject. The fact that at YouTube one can select a playlist such as Plainfield's Wednesday night readings that will then just continuously play throughout especially difficult nights, filling them with truth, was a godsend. Thanks also to Jeremy. And now, Wonder Kitty, who at one time seemed to be immobile and possibly painfully passing on, is making her way up and down large flights of stairs, again eating, cuddling with me and other pets, stretching her limbs in a natural after-yawn pauses, purring, and thinking of retaking up things like daily after-meal grooming. Meanwhile, societal fears around the current human pandemic have appeared, and I feel so grateful for God's hand in the divine timing preparation towards becoming more connected to the wonderful Christian Science healing treatment, so I can be of help in whatever ways unfold. Blessings to you all. So glad the Plainfield Independent Church exists. Hawaii. Well, this was a wonderful meeting. Beautiful, beautiful readings and testimonies, music, singing Mrs. Eddy's hymn, Saw Ye My Savior. It gave me chills, all of us here together, singing that truth and letting it go out to all mankind. And to hear how you all have been using this science and how blessed we are to have it. And the last statement Amanda read from Miscellany. Let the voice of truth and love be heard above the dire din of mortal nothingness, and the majestic march of Christian Science go on ad infinitum, praising God, doing the works of primitive Christianity, and enlightening the world. That is what we are about. And this lie, as was spoken of, hypnotic lie. I was thinking my son used to love, his favorite Walt Disney movie when he was a child was The Jungle Book. And that little boy, I don't know if you remember Kim, well, he was listening to this cobra, this snake, and the snake's head was moving back and forth, and Kim's eyes were circling around and around, and the snake was singing